guys, and welcome back to the Essence of May. So guys, we did it! Yay! 200 subscribers! We did it, guys. Thank you so much. Yes, the channel is growing, guys. To God be the glory. I know this may be small for some people, but for me, I want to acknowledge these milestones because then you tend to appreciate the small things, and then when you're when my platform has blown up, when it's huge, then I can always look back and say, look at where I'm coming from. So guys, I'm grateful, and I'll always, every milestone, when I get to 300, I will be celebrating. So guys, let's get the channel to 300. So I'm at 2+, and I know that we'll get to 300 very soon. So guys, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Like, share if you like the content. So yeah, I'm really grateful, guys, and yeah, I'm enjoying what I do. I'm enjoying this. You know, this is passion for me. This is my passion. So I'm glad that I have the platform to share with you guys, and I'm glad that you guys enjoy the content, even if we're of opposing views. You know, that doesn't matter. I'm just happy that you like a good discussion, and we can always share our thoughts and different views. So without any further ado, guys, I'm here to do a reaction to Dr. Wilson's message to the Black Lives Matter movement, well, to black people in general. So I'm not familiar with Dr. Wilson, but the video was sent to me, so shout outs to the subscriber who sent me this video. I will be watching the video with you guys, and then I'll give my reaction, and I also, as usual, I'll give my take on it, i.e. my 2 cents. So yeah, let's see how that one goes. So guys, let's watch the video, and then I'll come back with my thoughts on what Dr. Wilson has to say.
I'm Byron F. Wilson, founder of the Wilson Academy. The riots that have taken place all over the country and now all over the world are inevitable, and contrary to the opinions of some, the riots are both effective and necessary. The problem is, it's not a sustainable path to what we want. But then what next? What are we supposed to do? That's what this message is about, what we're going to do. Young people, my college students, my high school students, you're ready to act. You're ready to fight, but no one's listening to you. They just keep telling you to go home. But I hear you, and we have a plan. In order to find a solution, we must first understand why this is happening. The reason that officers of the law and private citizens acting as if they're officers of the law continue to murder us is because we can offer no consequence. For example, the reason you don't see Jewish people being murdered by police is because the Jewish community can provide economic consequences. They own things collectively. They're well invested in the media and the law, and they've built a strong community by focusing on exclusive internal growth and wealth building. But when members of the black community are murdered by white officers or vigilantes, we peacefully protest, focus on whatever election is upcoming, and ultimately there are no convictions for the criminals. There's something that we missed about how the civil rights movement was effective. Protesting was just the beginning. It was to unify the people and bring attention to the issue. But the next step was always economic action, boycotting, investing in our communities. Then that economic action is what forced legislation. The reason our efforts continue to fail is because we first of all keep asking for change instead of forcing it. But secondly, because we keep skipping a critical step in the process. So what do we want? Well, in the short term, we demand justice. In the long term, we demand reform. But we must be specific if we are to hold our nation accountable. So we demand 3 things. 1, we demand convictions and equitable and appropriate prison time for all officers involved in the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and all parties involved in the lynching of Ahmaud Arbery. 2, we demand legislation that ensures independent review of public safety officers. And 3, we demand a modification to the standards by which officers can be prosecuted. I'm sure you've heard people say, if you want change, get to the polls. Now, I'm not suggesting voting is useless, but the reality is voting will not solve our problems. In fact, we cannot allow ourselves to become distracted by political affiliations. The only way to get the change we seek is to show strength both economically and physically. So first, let's address physical strength. It is both irrational and un-American for us to continue to be met with force and not respond in kind. This is why we need all able Black Americans to exercise their constitutional rights and legally acquire a firearm. Perhaps Ahmaud Arbery would be alive right now had he been able to defend himself against the thugs who lynched him. And under Georgia's Stand Your Ground laws, well, he would have been within his legal rights. To all my gangbangers, my Bloods, my Crips, GDs, folk, everybody, I'm asking you to help us protect our communities from the white supremacist groups who would harm us. You are already armed and you're not afraid to die. I hope that you see fit to call a truce and unite against a greater common enemy in order to protect our children, our mothers, our sisters, aunties, and grandmothers. Now we must address how we fight economically. America doesn't particularly care about Black life. If it did, we wouldn't still be facing what we're facing right now. What America does care about is Black dollars. So we have to start speaking America's language. Effective immediately, we will only buy food from Black-owned restaurants. This does not apply to grocery stores, as we don't feel there are enough Black-owned grocery stores nationwide at this point to accommodate the initiative. However, there are many grocery items you can find on sites like WeBuyBlack.com. Now, our Black-owned restaurant initiative means that you will need to avoid many of your favorite restaurants, but you will discover new Black-owned favorites. And you must ask yourself what's more important. Understand that this is only phase 1 of a larger plan. We will implement phase 2 in the weeks to come. But this is something that everyone can do. So what's the point? And why will this work? According to both Nielsen and the CDC, Black people eat more fast food than anyone. By diverting our billions of dollars, we will accomplish 2 things. 1, change is not free. Supporting only Black restaurants keeps our money in our communities, money we can ultimately leverage to create the changes we all want to see. And 2, it uses our money we're already spending anyway, to create powerful billionaire allies. These companies will do what is necessary to get our dollars back, and if that means helping us to meet our objectives, well, then that's what they'll do. There are a few important notes to make when concerning this plan. This is not a boycott. We are not punishing white businesses. We are simply consumers who are making a choice to exclusively support Black restaurants in the strategic interest of justice and reform. Please note that we are exclusively supporting Black-owned restaurants, not minority-owned. The terms Black and minority are not interchangeable. So, to my Chinese, Korean, Arabic, and Indian restaurant owners, we have nothing against you personally. But if we don't do this now, there will be none of us left to buy your products anyway. If a franchise location is owned by a Black person, eat at that location exclusively. We will not harm our own people. There are websites like eatblackowned.com that you can use to find Black-owned restaurants in your area. But I'm confident that once everyone learns of our initiative, they'll let you know how to find them. We will not support non-equitable services. We will support Black restaurants that offer the quality and service we deserve. And if we have a negative experience, we will not generalize and say, see, this is why I don't support Black businesses. We will simply express our concerns to the management, and if we so choose, we just won't go back to that particular restaurant, just as we would behave with a restaurant that isn't Black-owned. This is not a one-day event. Did you know that the famous Montgomery bus boycott lasted over a year? 381 days to be exact. It takes time and consistency to have impact, just as it took time and consistency to implement the racist constructs we are fighting. We will continue with our strategy until our demands are met. At times, this will not be easy. You will be tempted to stray. But please accept that there can be no change without sacrifice. A brief message to white Americans. We don't hate you. We don't hate America. We just need it to work for us in the same way it works for you. Please stop saying all lives matter. Saying all lives matter is like one house in a subdivision is on fire. The fire truck arrives and you ask the fireman to douse your house with water, even though it's not on fire, because your house is important too. We've been asking for equality for hundreds of years now. Please process that. Understand. We're done asking. This word you see on my shirt is Ukurua. It's Zulu. It means fight. Black people, I need us to know that we are bigger than slavery. Our existence didn't begin when we became useful to America. We have our own continent, our own African culture, our own independent history. We are better than begging to not be murdered. The time has come for us to fight, and now we know how. Now this plan cannot work if people don't know about it. So if you do nothing else, it's important that you share this post or the link to this post on all your social media. And whenever you mention the plan, please use the hashtag #HowWeFight. You can find a hard copy of the plan at thewilsonacademy.org. Remember, hashtag #HowWeFight. Share the post.
Okay, guys, there you have it. Dr. Wilson. Yeah, very powerful message. And I've dissected it all. I've made notes. I came back with my notebook, guys. I just jotted down some notes before I did this part of my thoughts, because there are a couple of things that he says that I wanted to address directly. So, in listening to Dr. Wilson, I must say I am not completely in agreement with everything. This is why I made notes. So there are things that I agree with, and there are things that I did not necessarily agree with. Some of the things I'm on the fence about it, so neither on or off. It's, I just think sometimes people present ideas and they think that it's just black or white. But I've always, been of the belief that there's always deeper meaning to things. There's always varying factors, and why some things would never work, why it's not practical to implement certain change or certain things. So that's basically what I will be doing, just giving you my quick thoughts on what he has to say. Like I said, I agreed with most of the points he made. I am in agreement with that, but I'm not necessarily in agreement with everything. And this is why I'll continue to say, I understand, yes, people have said to me, obviously my views seem to be very left-winged, but I don't think I still will never, I will never label myself as left or right, because I think I'm more on the fence. I think I'm for some things that left-winged are for, and I'm for some things that right-winged are for. So I don't see how can I be labeled one. So this is why, and personally, I'm just man. So I understand, guys, I understand why you'd put me in that category of a left-wing individual based on my views. I understand that. I get that. But I don't think I will accept that, because like I said, I think some of the things that right-wing believes in, I believe in it also. So I guess I'm complex, if you want to call it that. So let me quickly just jump into these, the things that I pointed out that I felt I wanted to address. First off, he spoke about, Black lives, and he spoke about protests and us as an individual, and how we need to realize that we're not being heard. We keep asking for the same things and we're not being heard, which means we should stop asking. And this is where he pointed out some of these ideas, some of these radical, I'd call them radical movement in going forward. And one of the first ones that stood out to me was the one he spoke about. We are targeted because we have nothing to offer, like Jews, economically. So we're targeted because we have nothing to offer economically. So what he's saying is that unlike Jews, they obviously Jews they have a lot to offer, so they don't get targeted. Do I believe that? I'll put an X beside that one. No, I don't think it has anything to do with or finances. I don't think it has anything to do with our power in society. Yes, money buys everything. Yes, power is, yes, having assets is powerful and it influences decisions. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's deeper than just merely having money. I think this is more personal. This is more embedded. I think this is more to do with this, like I spoke about, the whole stereotype or the whole perception. I believe this has a lot to do with perception of individuals, whether it be blacks' perception of whites and whites' perception of blacks. That's, like I said, these are just my thoughts, my opinions. You know, you don't have to accept it. You can disagree, but I don't think it's because black people are not economically strong, because there are a lot of rich black individuals. So I'm not saying that we surpass the different race or the majority, but I'm just saying that I believe this is more to do with us individuals. I'm talking about us as in black, white, whomever you are. Because obviously it's not only white people that discriminate against black people. So we know this. Chinese, as we can see, discriminates against black people. But we're talking about white, because that's the one that's mainly there. That is more highlighted and that has been more historical. So I personally don't agree with Dr. Wilson on that part. I don't think it's necessarily economical strength. I think it has a lot to do with perception. I think it has a lot to do with experience, because of course there has been many experience with black and white, in terms of even with the police, where police and black people, especially black men, this is not even just America, guys. This is all over. Even in Jamaica, black men and police officers always have this mistrust going on. There's this, it's like, remember when the Lord told the serpent that he would crawl on his belly? This was in the Garden of Eden when Eve ate the apple, and the Lord said that the serpent would crawl in his belly and the woman would, in childbirth, she would have travail all her life. So this is why we feel pain when we're having children, stuff like that. And he spoke about the man will be a slave to the earth forever, in terms of digging. He will always be working hard by the sweat of his brow, where you shall eat bread. So it's like the same thing where you have the police and black men. There's always this conflict. There's this mistrust that goes on. So I think it's more to do with perception. It's more to do with prejudice in us. Like, black men prejudge. They assume that they're going to have a negative encounter. And white police officers, I believe, this is, like I said, this is what I feel strongly about. And this is where I've seen also evidence. When you see something reoccurring, then you have to lean towards that as facts. Even though we don't, like I said, we don't say facts in psychology, but we're talking about now in experience, what we see happening in the communities where police and black men always have this conflict going on. And I don't think it has nothing to do with economics. I don't think the police is thinking when a police officer approaches a black man, I don't think he's thinking, oh, is this black guy rich? Can this black guy contribute to America or Jamaica? No. I think it has a lot to do with it's an internal thing where there's always been this mistrust. There's always been this misconception, this bias, this stereotype. So I'm not gonna say just police stereotypes. Black men misjudge or it's like a misconception that this is going to happen to me. When I see the police, especially black inner cities, they tend to expect aggression. And I think they come with aggression because they're expecting police to treat them. And you see, this is why I always talk about how your approach and how it's important to approach people in a certain way. I think it makes a difference how you approach them. Yes, you're going into an inner city community, and yes, you might be met with aggression, But if your approach is different, fire cannot out fire. We need water to cool fire. So if your approach is different, like myself, I've had experience where, people have been aggressive, and because I came with a calm demeanor, I came with a calm, cool, and collective head, that person then cools down. So if we look at the police side, where the police would go with that calm, collective mindset, then that would, I believe, would, basically that black individual would be like, oh, not expecting this. So that's really strange. So for me, I don't agree with that point. I believe it's down to prejudice. I believe it's down more internally. I believe it's down to misconception and misjudgment. And for judging before you know what will really happen. Going on to the point 2, convictions for officers, reform for legislation. Personally, I don't think that should be our focus. I don't know why people keep focusing on reforming the police. I'm not saying that things don't need to change, that certain things like police taking the law in their hands. I am totally against that, but I think I don't think how that's going to benefit the black community, because not only police officers that we're having issues with. I think this is more systemic, as I've always said. You have issues with discrimination in terms of the workplace, in terms of misconception, in terms of prejudice. So I don't think it's just the police. I don't know why they're targeting the police only when there's a wider spectrum, and I don't see how reform to a police can better the community. I think the focus needs to be on us as individuals or young people in the inner city, and how we can better educate them, and how we can reform our community, not necessarily to reform the police. Yes, there needs work that needs to be done, but it's a separate issue. We need to get up to par as black people, as in to work on ourselves and improve our environment, obviously through funding, through better infrastructures, through greater investments in our education system. Going on to point 3, asking gangs to help. I don't know how I feel about that. That's something where I don't know what good can come from that. As I said in my previous video with the Stone Mountain, I don't think taking up guns to go and stand up with guns is going to solve the problem. Violence only beget more violence. So I personally cannot agree with guns and going to face off, because that's not how we're going to that's not how we're going to move forward. Like I said, that only feeds into the narrative that black people, and I'm not saying that if a black person has a gun that we're aggressive. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying forcing change will not get us anywhere. We have to command change, and to command it is about us improving us and investing. And the only thing I think we need to demand actually is more investments into our communities, like proper investment. I'm not talking about grants that some people never see. I'm talking about investment in terms of our education system, in terms of us investing also in ourselves and into our children, into our younger society. The next one is support black-owned businesses. Now this one, guys, it's like one of my pet peeves. This one is one of a touchy subject for me, because I can tell you, have I ever been to a black restaurant and had a good experience? This is really bad. This is sad, guys. I've always been, this nags at me. I've always been so irritated to go into a black-owned restaurant. And guys, the experience has always been the same. Slow, poor customer service, poor management. I don't know. And this is why I go back to, like, this is just mental for black people. Black people, I'm not talking about all black people. I'm talking about the experience I've had. Some people may have had good experience, but I've just seen where the experience has always been the same. You go into a black-owned restaurant, you're standing there forever. Sometimes the person that is serving you, their face is like, they're always miserable. It seems like they don't even want to be there. Some of them they're rude. Customer service, etiquette. They need to be brought up to par. So yes, I'm for supporting our businesses. I do not like the fact that we always support other companies. We're always supporting businesses and they are not even respectful to us. They don't even appreciate us or treat us with the dignity that we deserve. But I think with this one, supporting black businesses, I don't think that's where we need to start. We have to target how we can improve black businesses. So yes, support black businesses, black owned businesses, but also we have to look at the point where we need to also target improving ourselves as black owners of restaurants and so on. Doing better, getting better training, customer service. It's a lot of things. Looking at us as a people and why we are like this, why is it such a bad experience when we go into black owned businesses? Not saying all are the same, but my experience has all been negative. So sorry, we need to look at how we can improve ourselves as black own businesses and as owners, how we can improve that something needs to be done to how we conduct ourselves in businesses. And the final one is stop saying white lives matter. As I've agreed with, at the end of the day, that will just create more anguish in people. I think if you don't, and I say this to that white life matter movement, if you have nothing to say nothing at all. I just think people just need to shut up if they have nothing to say, because all you're doing is fueling a fire that we don't need. It's like you want World War III to start, and that is what we're trying to avoid. So people, be sensitive to others' needs, be sensitive to others' feelings. If you're not the one feeling it, do not tell someone they don't have a right to feel the way they feel. Because at the end of the day, we are all entitled to our feelings. And saying white lives matter, it's like a dig at Black Lives Matter. Because at the end of the day, it's not like black people are coming to you directly and saying, don't speak, leave people to express their feelings. Something did happen. What happened to George Floyd was terrible, and people have a right to voice their opinions, even if that's not representation of all police officers. At the end of the day, it did happen, and it was a poor showing, and it wasn't the first that happened. So if something is happening repeatedly, people are going to more lean to the side of that's the norm. So even though I don't believe it's something that happens all over, and I don't believe all white people are racist, because I've met some lovely white people, I know some lovely white people, so shout out to all my white friends. So I'm not for us being against each other. We just have to respect that people have their opinions and just allow people to vent. And as long as they're not coming to you with any harm, and as long as they're not directly disrespecting you, give people the freedom to be heard. So guys, but I have to say, very powerful message from Dr. Wilson. You can check out the Dr. Wilson's video if you want. The link will be in the description. But guys, that's really what I have to say. That's my 2 cents. Violence is not the way, guys. We just have to improve ourselves, as I've always preached, as I've always been lobbying for. Improving ourselves as individuals and getting ourselves up to par, because investing in our environment, our community, and in our children, and educating ourselves is the best way forward, in my opinion, because then we'll be more aware, we'll be able to make better decisions, cool, collective decisions, wise decisions, and then we can definitely be more successful in society. But guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Have yourself a wonderful day. Godspeed. Bye.